Hey guys, welcome back. Got another video for you today. Going to be installing Avaya Messaging, formerly known as IX Messaging or Officelinx. Before we get into the video, just want to say thanks to the people that have subscribed to my channel so far. Really appreciate that. Got a nice range of videos here for you guys to check out if you haven't checked out already. There's going to be some more videos coming on, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up on the videos if you enjoy them and you found them helpful. Really appreciate it. Really kind of helps me out. And the reason why I make these Avaya videos is just like working with Avaya. And I've been doing it for quite a while. So I just kind of want to share the experience really. Anyway, enough about that. What we're going to look at today is we're going to look at Avaya Messaging. And Avaya Messaging basically runs on a Windows server. So what we need to do within VMware is we need to create a virtual machine. And we need to give it a name, Avaya Messaging. It's going to be on Windows, so we'll select Windows from the Guest OS family drop-down, and then from this one here, we just need to go and find it. Now, IX Messaging is supported on 2016 and 2019, so today I'm going to be installing this on Windows Server 2016. That'll be fine. What we need to do is give this is a lab system. If you want the system requirements, then they are easily found online. You can just search Google or the Avaya website for Avaya Messaging installation guide, and what it will do is it will basically take you to here. There's some system requirements. Here's the link here. I'll drop it in the video description, and it basically tells you what's needed. So like system requirements and stuff like that. Installation preparation, basically tell you what you need to do. The system requirements as well. What I'm going to be installing today in this video is going to be a single consolidated server. Now, there are HA modes that you can install, but I'm not going to go into detail about any of those. It's purely just going to be a single voicemail solution running on one server. But any information you need will be in this document. So let me find it. Where is it? There are some system requirements here, probably further on down the document. So yeah, all processes have to be above 2 gigahertz. So for a standalone deployment, for like a small sort of system, you need 4 CPUs, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 400 gigabytes of storage. And then for a larger system, it's 8 CPUs, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and again 400 gigabytes of storage. Here are the requirements for the HA stuff, but as I said, we're not going to be going into detail about any of that HA stuff. It's purely just going to be a consolidated standalone server. So if I get rid of that, so what I'm going to do is, because it's a lab system, I will give it 4 CPUs, and I will give it 8 gig of RAM actually, because I have that kind of spare. My hard disk size, what we need to do is actually create 2 hard disks. So one is going to be to house the operating system. So the operating system will reside on this 100 gig partition, and then what we'll do is we'll just add another hard disk, and we'll set it to 400 gig. Now I don't actually have 400 gigabytes of space, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this thin provisioned, and that'll be fine. And obviously there are some reservations and stuff that we have to put on here as well, but for my lab system I'm not going to worry about that. All the stuff is detailed in the document if you find yourself installing this. And then my network adapter, I'm just going to put that on the correct network, which is going to be Avaya servers. And then you need to use an ISO image or actual CD on your VMware if you have one. I prefer using an ISO because it installs quicker. And my ISO image is this one. So Windows Server 2016 64-bit. Select that. And then I'm going to click Next. Click on Finish. And then what will happen now is you'll see that my Avaya messaging machine is ready for me to power on. So if I power that on, what it'll do is it'll ask me to basically, we're going to install the operating system within the server now. So just to run you through the video, we're going to install the operating system. We have to prepare the operating system, so there's certain features and roles that we have to install. We have to turn off UAC within the operating system, modify some local security policy, and do some IIS configuration around certificates. Once that is done, and we're all happy that the operating system is prepared, we also need to install .NET Framework 7.8, and then we can progress to install the messaging software, and then we'll patch it. I'm going to go into detail about some communication manager configuration for the cover paths, the hunt groups, the stations, and then we're also going to do some configuration in system manager to set up the links between session manager and the Avaya messaging server. And also I'm going to have my own dedicated trunk to go from communication manager to session manager purely for the voicemail hunt group number. So that's what we're going to be covering in the video today. I'll show you how to do some admin inside the Avaya messaging as well, how to set up some mailboxes and certain little things that we want to maybe enable or disable depending on your deployment. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and install the operating system. So this will just take a second now. What we'll do is accept that license agreement, and then I always click on custom install, and then we're going to make sure that it installs on this hard disk here, the 100 gig one, and we can just leave this one untouched. We can do what we need to do with this one once the operating system's installed. So I'll click on next. We'll let that install itself, and what I'll do is I'll stop the video, and then when the operating system's all installed and I'm at the screen where I have to put in the username and password, then that's when I'll continue with the video and we can configure the operating system up, set the network adapter, and all those little bits and pieces that we need to do before we can install the software. So yep, stay tuned and I'll be back in a few moments. Okay, so the operating system's now installed, so I'm just going to set a password on it. And then what I need to do is we'll log in with this. So I'm going to log in. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the IP address on the network adapter. I'll just go in here. I like to disable IP version 6 as well because not going to be using it. So we'll just get rid of it. And for this machine, I'm giving it 10.2.1.160/24 subnet mask. And then my default gateway is that. I'm pretty sure it's 10.2.3.100. We can confirm that. Oh no, it's a bit of a mistake, wasn't it? Yep, cool. So 10.2.3.100 is my DNS server. For some reason, I forgot it for a moment there. And then the next thing is to disable the firewall. So we don't have any firewall running on this because it uses a range of UDP ports and other TCP ports that we don't want to have blocked. So we can open those up. And we'll just ping to make sure we can get out to the internet, which we can't. So why can't we get out to the internet? Let me just check my network adapter. Via servers, yeah, that's all fine. Just double check my IP address. I'm sure it was 10.23.160. 1.160 even. Okay, so that can ping. Why are we not getting any network on this thing? So let me just check to make sure I put that IP address in correctly. Okay, so it was a typo or something in there. It does happen, unfortunately. So let's just check this. Ethernet adapter 0. 10.21.160. Yeah, that should all be okay. How odd. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I'm sure that was the IP address I was using. Okay, that's fine. We'll reboot the machine in a minute anyway. The next thing I want to do is install VMware tools. So we'll go down here, install VMware tools. And then whilst it's doing that, the other thing I'll do is I will change the host name of the server. So change it in here. We'll call it Avaya Mess 01. And I'll put the DNS suffix in here as well. And then I'm going to enable remote desktop so we can log into it remotely instead of having to use the VMware console. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a shared folder in here called Avaya software. Oh, actually, we can just call it Avaya, it's fine. Temporarily, I'm going to give everyone permission for it because it's just a lot easier than once I'm done with it. This is just so I can copy the software from my machine to the server. I don't want to reboot that just yet. I'll close that. And then the next thing I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to format that second hard drive within the server. So I'll just go down here, bring this online and initialize it. That's fine. And then I'll just format the volume. I'm going to give this drive the drive letter X, and I'm just going to give it a volume label called Avaya Messaging. And there we go, that's healthy. So I think that's probably it. The next thing I'm going to do before I reboot this is we need to turn off UAC, so not in there. Go into user accounts and then change this, and this just needs to be put down to off. We can put it up after the install, but for installing the software, we actually need to disable it, otherwise it won't work. And then there's something else we need to do in the local security policy. Let's Get rid of that. Mean to bring that up. So in here, can't remember what it's called now. Interactive logon. Nope, it's not that. User access. Let me just check my notes really quickly. Because there is some stuff that we need to do. Which one is it? This one here. So we need to disable this. This run all administrator and admin approval mode. So that needs to be set to that. So what we do now is we just reboot the server. Hopefully the server comes online. I'll just reboot that very quickly. Oh yeah, hang on a second. So I found out what the issue is actually. Giving it the wrong IP address. I think I needed to give it 130 and not 160, which is the problem. That is why it's not working. It's because I was doing something on 160 earlier on, so it's kind of why it didn't work. Right, so right, there we go. That's a lot better. So what I should be able to do now is we'll remote desktop to that machine because it'll be a lot quicker. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to prepare the operating system. Well, we need to finish preparing the operating system. So I've created a shared folder on the server. I'm just going to browse to that now. And I'm going to copy the software over. As you can see, I've got this share up here. So I'm just going to copy the files over. So what I need to copy over is I need .NET Framework 4.8 and I need the Avaya Messaging software. So I'll copy those in there. Whilst that's copying, what we need to do now is add roles and features. Click on next to that. And that one as well. And then we need to enable some features. So this is all documented as well. So we need the fax server. Obviously, if you want to use it as a fax server, then we need it. I don't think that we're actually going to be using this as a fax server. But anyway, we'll add it. And then we need the web server IIS. So we'll add those features. And then we'll click next to that. And then what we need to do is enable .NET Framework 3.5, this HTTP activation. That is fine as well. You don't need to worry about that. We need the SNMP service, which is fine. And then what we need to do is just click on next to that, and next to that, and next to that, and next to that as well, and then next to that, and then this is where we need to configure all this stuff. So we need web server, common HTTP features. We need these here. HTTP redirection is required. We need health and diagnostics, so HTTP login. and then we need the static content compression. Under security, we need Windows authentication and request filtering. And then under application development, we need to have 3.5, 4.6. We need active server pages, ASP.NET 3.5, 4.6. We need to have CGI, and we need the WebSockets protocol. We also need to have the FTP server selected, and then under the management utilities or tools, we need to have these ticked. We need to tick those. We need to tick all of these, and that is it as far as I'm aware. So we'll just click on next to that, and then install, and then we'll let it go and install itself. The other thing I'm going to do as well is I'm going to install, or I'm going to download the language packs from the Avaya support site. So we'll just let that install. So this is what we're going to be downloading. And what I want is, I would like to have the, where is it? UK messaging language pack. So that is the one that I'm going to download. I'm going to download that. And we could also install the Spanish language pack as well, just as a demonstration. And I'm not going to worry about any of the others. So I'll download those while the status installing. So if I go into my Avaya Messaging folder here, not this one, the Avaya software folder, this one, you can see I've got those there. That's actually kind of bugging me a bit with that one at the end of it, so I'm going to get rid of it. Now the language packs are going to take a while to download, but that's no problem. They can be added in after the install. I mean, well, they have to be added in after the install. And you can either add them in after the main install, or you can install all of the patches and then add them in. It's entirely up to you, but they have to be done after the install, so it's no big deal really. We can just sort that out. So the other thing I'm going to do, whilst that's still doing that, is I'm going to head over to System Manager. We need to create a certificate for this server. So if we go to Security Certificates and Authority, we'll just add an end entity, and we'll give it a name. In fact, it's already auto-completed it for me. So give it a name, and that's the one there. We'll use this and we'll put it in the subject's alternative name, and that as well, followed it by its IP address. And I'm going to generate this as a P12 file, and that should be all. So I'll just click on add to that, head over to the public web, create key store, stick in the username here and the password from the previous page, and I'm going to create it as 4096 bits. And what that will do is it will then go into my downloads folder in just a second. And there we are, it's in there already, so yeah, that's cool. What I'll do is I'll just copy that over to the Avaya Messaging folder so that can go in there as well. Head back to my remote desktop now. Just check the status of this. So we'll leave it running for a few. And then once it's installed, I'll come back to the video and then we can crack on with installing the rest of the software. So yep, we'll be back in just a minute, guys. Right, so we're back in business. So that's all installed now. So next job is to install the .NET Framework 4.8. So I downloaded the offline installer from the Microsoft's website. I just copied it to the server. So this will probably take another couple of minutes to install as well. So I don't know whether I should just stop the video or whatever. I mean, we'll let it extract the file and stuff like that. But we've got the certificate over now. In fact, actually, whilst that's doing that, if we go to iNet SMGR, what I'll need to do is there's something else I need to do on here as well, which is I need to copy over the Avaya CA over here as well. So I'm pretty sure that's the one. Yep, that's the one I'm going to be using. So we'll just rename that to CRT just for the ease of the operating system. And if we go into that folder, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open that up and install that on a local machine. I'm going to install this .NET framework as well at the same time. I want to copy this to the Trusted Root Certificate Authorities folder and then just install it, which is cool. So that's installed now. What I'm going to do now is in IIS, I'm going to go to certificates and I'm going to import that certificate that I generated earlier on. Now that's there. Yeah, I'm going to import that. So click on this, go to the C drive where that is contained, change that to all files, and now I'm literally just going to put the password in here and save that. And then what I can do is on this default website here, this is another requirement that needs to be done, is if we go to bindings, we're going to have to remove this, but before we can remove it, we're going to have to add the HTTPS one in first. So we'll add that and we'll select the certificate that we just uploaded, which is cool, and then we can remove that. Are you sure you want to remove this selected binding? Yes, I'm 100% sure. So that's all good. And I don't believe there's anything else that we need to do in here at all. Compression's already enabled, so that's cool. We should be able to close this now. And if we go back to our .NET framework, you can see that that is installing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extract this software as well, because this is going to take a while to extract. So we just as well do it at the same time. Since this we're waiting, and I like to put it in its own folder via Messaging 11 main software. So that's now extracting itself to that folder. As you can see here, some files that are starting to copy over. Keep an eye on this. And what we can do is we can test our HTTPS as well. So if we do HTTPS 10 to 1.130, then we should get the IIS screen, hopefully. There we go. So we know our HTTPS is working and our certificate is being presented as it should do. And there we go. We have that. And all the information is in the subject alternate name, which is what we put in from System Manager. And then we also have a common name here as well. So that's all good. Our IIS is working. Just to confirm, hopefully we shouldn't be able to use HTTP. There we go. It's dead. So that's nearly extracted. And then the other thing I'm going to do as well is my Spanish language packers copied over. So I'll just copy that over to the server. but my English UK one is not, so I'll just have to wait that one out, I think. It's going to take 25 minutes. It's 952 megabytes. Sometimes I find the Avaya support site goes like that. Different downloads give you different speeds. So I think whilst that's doing that, I'm just going to move it over to my other screen so I can keep an eye on it. What we're going to do is we're going to need to create a SIP entity for the IX messaging. So in here, we'll do is we will create new and call it Avaya Messaging. Change that to SIP trunk, and then the IP address we'll put in there as 10.2.1.130. The location is going to be lab, and I'm just going to set the time zone to Europe, London. And then for this type of trunk, I'm going to have it connected to both session managers, but I'm going to set it to use TCP. Which is fine, 5060, 5060, that's all good. Everything in here is okay, so I'm going to commit that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another trunk from communication manager to session manager specifically for this voicemail. And just so you're aware, this is finished installing, and I'm just going to restart this machine now. So that'll be restarted in just a moment. So yep, I'm going to create a new trunk. What I'll do is I'll just duplicate one of these because most of the stuff's already in there. The only difference will be is I'm going to change this to be voicemail because I'm going to use local hostname resolution. So voicemail voicemail.co.uk, and then what I'm going to do is these are going to be on TLS 5063. And that'll be that. So let me just make sure that the name has changed to what it should be. Features, no it hasn't. Change it to, that's why. We'll just put a note in it. CM trunk to SM for voicemail. Yep, that's good. So happy with all of that. I'm just going to copy this again so I don't have to type it out, and then I'm going to commit that. And now that's been done, what I need to do is I need to go over to Session Manager, Dashboard, Network Configuration, and then the local hostname resolution, where I'm going to simply add this in here. IP address will be 10.2.1.160 for Communication Manager, and that'll be on port 5063, and transport type TLS. So we can commit that. And then what we should see in here is, hopefully anytime soon, that we have a trunk down. So we have the trunk to via messaging down because it's not, doesn't have anything installed on it at the moment, and also the voicemail trunk in Communication Manager. So what I'll do now is I'll just remote onto the server, and we should be in a good position to install the software. So we go in here, go into this folder and this one here, and what we'll do is we'll just kick off the install for the software. Close that because I don't need to have that open. So yep, just click on this setup here. And then what that will do is it will kick off the install. And this might take just a second. So once this is done, I will then focus on the communication manager bits and pieces. Let's just move that out of the way. Sometimes this stage can take a little while for it to just sort itself out. I don't know how my language pack's doing. Oh, 25 minutes. It seems to be getting slower. Anyway, not a problem. So I can see it doing something in the background here. There we go. It's just installing the Microsoft Visual C++ 2005 redistributable. I think we're getting somewhere now. Slowly but surely. It is quite a big package, so it does take a little bit of time. So here we go. So we just click next to that. There'll be a license agreement to accept on the next page, I think. Nope. So what we have to do now is we need to set our administrator's account for our machine. So I just put in administrator in here and then a password. So this is like the default administrator for the messaging software. This isn't case sensitive, but obviously the password is. So just enter that and then click on continue. Accept the license agreement. It's up to you if you want to read all of this. And then click next. And then what we're going to do is we're going to install the messaging software on the X drive. Click on next. Single UC server I'm going to go for. So it's all consolidated in one machine. It's all on one server. You can do HA, but we're not going to be covering that. It's just going to be a single UC server for a small deployment. So a bit of background about this Avaya Messaging. It used to be called Avaya IX Messaging, and then Avaya changed its name to Avaya Messaging earlier on this year. And then before that, it was called Officelinx, which was actually developed by a company called Esna. And the thing I like about this voicemail is it actually integrates with a lot of telephone systems. So it'll integrate with Cisco, Mitel. There's a bunch of stuff it'll integrate with. It does Office 365 integration as well. So yeah, it's quite a good voicemail system. Anyway, so I'm going to select Avaya WebLM license, click on next, and then it'll ask me to put in the IP address of my license manager, which happens to be system manager. So in here, I'll just put in my IP address of my system manager and click OK. And it's found my license, so I can just click on exit to that. Now, hopefully, providing that we haven't missed any of the features and roles out that we added to the server, this should install without any problems. We shouldn't have to go back and install anything else. So we just click on next to that, and that all looks good. So if I had missed out one of the roles from the server preparation, what would happen is it would give me a bunch of tick boxes to say that some of the stuff is installed, but the ones without ticks next to them, like CGI or active server pages, like they wouldn't have ticks next to them. So we'd have to go in and add those roles to the server and then just go back and then click next again, so it kind of refreshes itself. And this is what I was saying about the PBXs that it integrates with. So there's a list of the stuff here that it's integrated with. Now, because this is going to be Avaya, we can simply click Avaya. Work with IP Office, it will work with the old Nortel CS1K and also the Communication Manager. So this is the one we're going to be selecting. You can ignore the 6.x, that's fine. We'll just select that one, click on Next. I'm not going to be integrating with any type of email, but if you were, then you could select one of these. I'm not, so I'm going to click None. I select my country as United Kingdom, and then my area code is 44. Click Next. And then I need to specify a password in here for IIS related services. Make sure you keep a note of that password. It's not a password you really want to lose. And then we'll just have to put the password in again on the next screen. The password is also needed when you have to apply certain patches, so keep that password safe. This here you can either enable or disable. I think it basically gives you a like a recorded message when you access someone's mailbox, or you get forwarded to voicemail. You can either select it if you need it or no if you don't. These features can be enabled or disabled during the UC app configuration. Like once the software is installed, you can either turn this off or turn it on, however your requirements need. But I'm not going to be using it, so what we'll do is we'll click on Next, and then click on Next. And what will happen now is the software will then go and install itself. So this will probably take about half an hour or 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video, and what I'll do is I'll continue the video once the software's at the next stage. So I believe the next stage is where it'll ask me to run the SIP configuration tool, where I have to put in the IP address of the session managers, configure the voicemail number and stuff like that. So once I get to that stage, I'll start the video up again, and yeah, we'll progress from there. So be back in a few moments. So just for the benefit of the video, the software's still installing. It says it's got about 2 minutes to go, but that will probably be the longest 2 minutes of our lives. So yeah, before I just show you guys that the software's still installing. Yeah, when it comes to the SIP configuration stuff, which should be the next step, then I'll start the video back up, and we can go from there. Okay, so we're at the next step now. So what we have to do in here is we need to put our channels in. So I'm going to put 1 to 30 in, and then we'll put the IP addresses of our session managers in. So 10 to 1.20, and then comma 10 to 1.22. Now I have had a maximum, personally, a maximum of 6 in here, so I know that that's fine. It works with 6 session managers because I've tested it. So, yep, you can leave the port as 5060, 5060. This can be local. In the advanced bit, we don't need to worry about any of this. We don't need to change any of that. It will just work as it needs to. The channels, what I do is we're going to be using the voicemail number of, I think it's, let me just check my dial plan analysis. So I've got 899. So what I do first of all is I put the star in here. I let it auto-populate all of the channels, and I just go and edit the top one, so 8999, and then I just say no, I don't want to do that, or just leave it as this. Registration tab, we don't need to change anything on that, and we don't need to change anything on the MWI tab either, or the ANI tab. We don't need to worry about anything in there for this deployment. If we go to general settings, we need to do is change this buffer size to 4196. And the reason why we have to change this is if you're using a vector to forward a call to a certain mailbox, without setting this, it'll actually fail because the message will be too big and it'll exceed the buffer size. So we have to increase it to 4196. And that is all we need to do for the SIP configuration tool. So once we're happy that all the settings are correct, we can just go ahead and click on OK. and that should close in a second, and then we'll probably be asked to do some stuff with the AES server, which we don't need to do at this moment in time. So let's just give that a bit of time to do what it needs to do. And whilst that's doing that, we'll come back to that in just a second. What we'll do is we'll need to add a routing policy in for our Avaya messaging. So what we'll do is we'll just go to routing policies, click on new, and then we'll just call this Avaya Messaging pilot number to voicemail. Select our SIP entity destination, which will be this Avaya Messaging here, and we can commit on that. And then what we need to do is just go to dial patterns, add in our 8999, maximum of 4 and a minimum of 4. That can stay as all, and then we just need to apply that to our locations and say that when that number is received, send it over to the routing policy, which then uses that SIP entity as its destination. So that's all done in there. If we open up the Avaya messaging thing, it's still doing its thing. So what I'll do is I'll just move that over there for 1 second, and then we can do some communication manager programming. So I said I was going to use a separate trunk and signal group for the messaging system. So what we're going to do first of all is we'll just add a signal group next, which should be signal group 3. We'll change that to SIP. It's going to be TLS. It will come from the processor Ethernet. So proc R, and this will be 5063. It's going to be a clustered bunch of session managers, which you already have, and the cluster ID will be 1. Again, it's going to be all of my session managers on port 5063. Network region to be 1, and it'll be voice.voipworld.co.uk. RTP payload will be, the DTMF of IP will be RTP payload, and we'll use direct IP to IP audio connections. We don't need to worry about the hairpinning, and we don't need to select initial IP to IP direct media. So I think that should all be good, and we can save that. And what we'll do now is we'll add trunk next, which should be trunk 3, which it will be. So we'll label this CM to SM voicemail. It's going to be SIP. I'm going to set it to tie. The TAC code I'll use will be #103, and the signal group that we've just created was number 3 as well, and I'll stick 30 members in that. Go over to the next page. I don't need to worry about anything on here. This I'm going to change to private numbering because it's a tie trunk that uses the private numbering format. And what we'll do is we'll mark user as the phone. We don't need to send the transfer party information. Network call direction isn't needed. Diversion header, I'm not going to be using that. We will put the RTP payload code in there as 101, and we'll set always use reinvites for display updates, which should be fine. There's nothing on the other page we need to worry about. It will just take us back to page 1. So we've done that. If we do a status sig3, it's saying that it's in service. If I go back to System Manager now, hopefully this link is down, but it will probably be up in a very short period of time, hopefully. So we'll just leave that for the moment. Some other things I need to do in Communication Manager. So I need to change the uniform dial plan. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at our dial plan parameters. Uses the UDP table first. What we'll do is we'll change uniform dial plan 8, and we'll just add in 8999 with a minimum length, or a length of 4. We don't want to delete any digits, and we're going to tell it to use the AAR table and convert it. So we need to delete 0 digits off of that, which is fine. So if we do change AAR A 0, these are what I've got in here first. Before we edit the AAR table, we need to do change route pattern 3. So we're going to be using route pattern 3, and this will just be for voicemail. What I'll do is I will set that as trunk 3. My FRL can be 3 as well. And then our numbering format will be leb0 private, and we don't need to worry about rehunt, although we could add it, but it's a bit pointless anyway because it's just the one trunk in there. So we could leave it as that, but there's not really any need. Enter that. Now we'll do change AAR analysis 0, and what we'll do is we'll add an 8999, minimum 4, maximum 4, and that will use root pattern 3, and the numbering or call type will be leb0, and that is it. If we have a look in System Manager again now, hopefully, there we go. What we have got now is our link to Communication Manager for that specific trunk is now up. And if I'm not going to be able to do it right now, but I could fire 1x communicator up in just a moment and test that. So if you go back to the server, what we need to do is specify a path for the log files. And because I installed this messaging software on the X drive, it'll be x /uc /log. And then this one will be x uc and config. And I set this to 100 milliseconds. Click on next, and then this bit we can just click on next to because we don't need to configure the AES server and all of that sort of stuff. So click on next and click on finish. Select hybrid SSO. What we're going to do is we're going to modify this. I'm not using any of these, so I'm going to untick them, and I'm basically just going to have these set because it's on-prem, it's not cloud. I'll set my domain as VoIP world.local because that's my domain, and we'll do is this is like the Avaya cloud stuff. It's not necessary for what I'm going to be doing, and it's actually found the certificate that I've uploaded in IIS already. So there we go. We can use that certificate. Click on OK, click on save. This would need to be added to like Avaya Spaces if we're using it, but we're not using any of that stuff for the Avaya Cloud stuff, so we can simply just click on continue. What it will do is it should finish the rest of the install off. So if I head back over to Communication Manager, there's a couple more things that need to be done. So we need to add a hunt group in. So what we'll do is we'll add hunt group 99 and call this voicemail. The extension will be 8999. Most idle agent is fine. We'll use that. We'll head over to the next page and we're going to change this to SIP adjunct. The voicemail number will be 8999. Voicemail handle again will be 8999, and then my feature access code for my AAR table is #22. So we'll enter that. If I do change feature access codes, you can see here my AAR code is #22, so that all matches up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cover path. So let's list my cover. So I already have 99. Just check that messaging software for the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove cover path 99 because it was for an old thing I set up. So what we'll do is we'll create a cover path, add cover path 99, and what we'll do in here is we'll set it to 5 rings, or 4 rings actually, and we'll tell it to go to hunt group 99 as its first point, and we'll save that. And if we do a change station 2005, cover path 99 is already on there. We do a change station 2002, we'll stick that on cover path 99 as well. And then most importantly, we'll do a save transil. And then this is the bit that kind of takes the most time after the install is done. So if we do a task manager just to make sure it is still doing something, then what we'll see is yeah, so it's still busy doing some stuff. You'll probably find it's doing is it's finished installing the software, but it's starting all of the services now. So we just need to be patient and wait for it, which is something I'm not very good at doing, but in this Avaya world. So there should be a load of UC services here, as you can see. None of them are running. but that's fine. That's no big deal. So I have the other language packs installed now as well. Well, I say installed. I have them downloaded. So we have this English one here, which I suppose I could extract right now, just so it's there and it's all ready. So just UK English. I'll extract that so it's ready for me later on. So what we have in this software here is we have the main install here, which is what we've installed, the main software which is installing now. We've got the UK language pack, we have a Spanish language pack, and then we also have the latest 11 service update 1 to install. Now, the way I was going to do this video was I was going to install the messaging system and then patch it, but I think that's just a bit of a waste of time. What we can do is we'll install the software, we'll configure it up, we'll dial into voicemail, and then what we'll do is we'll install the patches and the language packs and configure some feature groups up for some users with different languages. So what I'll do is I'll stop the video, and then once this is complete, then I'll resume the video and we can crack on with testing some of the CM stuff. Okay, so the messaging software is now installed, and what I need to do is restart the server. So let's go ahead and restart that. Just minimize that as well, which is all fine. So what we'll do is we'll just wait for that to come back up. So that's back up now. I'm just going to go and configure my 1x communicator to point to my communication manager on 10.2.1.160. So let's do that. Just log in. So that's logged in. And that's completely expected. I expect it to do that. So let's just have a look on my trace. Let's do list trace tac 103, and hopefully it should send it over there. Yep, it does. It sends it over there. Root AAR, yep, that's cool. 8999. And it's completely expected. Of course, we're going to get a network failure because the entity link is not up yet, and that's going to take a few minutes to come back up. Let's just log in on here and make sure that everything's fine, which it does look like it. So I'll keep monitoring that entity link, and hopefully it will come up soon. So we don't need to have that open anymore. So what you've got on the Avaya messaging system is we have this Avaya Messaging admin application. And the first thing I'd recommend doing is logging into that using the administrator's password and account that we set during the first part of the install. And then just create yourself another administrator. Lab admin, give it a password. Obviously you can put the full name and description and everything in there, but for what I'm doing it's not going to be a problem. So I'll add that. Password is invalid. What is wrong with you? I guess it doesn't meet some password policy, or either that I've put the password in incorrectly. But that's fine, we'll use that password. So now we have a normal administrator's account in there as well. If anything happens to this one, then at least we can still get in with this. Just a note, if you do lock this account, you'll need to raise a service request with Avaya to get them to unlock it. You can't unlock the account from using one of your normal administrator's accounts. So what we want to do as well, just as a note, is in here under advanced. Is it under there? Yes, I think it is. Maybe it isn't. Well, there was some advanced features in there. Perhaps they're not showing. That's fine. We'll deal with that later on. So anyway, the way this works is you have like a default company. And if we right click and go to properties on this, what you'll see is we can set the country. So we'll set that to United Kingdom. This I would not recommend changing because it breaks stuff. You can rename the company to something else that you want. You can also tell it to use mailboxes from the default mailbox database store. And if you're going to install language packs, you can activate and enable them or disable them through here. So I'm just going to save that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself an admin mailbox. So to create a mailbox, if we go down to mailbox, where is it? Mailbox structure in here. What you can do is you can create organizational units within here. So you could have it separated for departments, or if you had more than multiple offices using like one voicemail system, you could separate it here. You could have your administrators or stuff like that in here as well. So we'll just do that. What we'll do is we'll say like admin mailboxes. PBX node is default because we only have one. And what you'll see is we've got this little folder in here as well. We could create another one if we wanted to. We could create one called lab users, for example. And I could have my admin mailboxes in here. What we could do is have the admin mailbox. So add it, just right click, new mailbox. I'm going to give it a number of 0001. Just call it admin mailbox. Feature group is default. I'll explain a bit more about feature groups in just a moment. Gender, male or female, it all depends on like whatever you set here will give you the gender of the greeting. Username, this is for like web access, and then this is the password here to dial in to the voicemail. So when you dial in, it'll ask you to put the password in. This is the password to set. You can set defaults on the company level, which I'll go into detail a bit more. I think that username there is necessary, so you need to give it a username. For this example, I'll just give it 0001 and we'll set it to password 1234. And then what we can do is we can just save that. So that's going to be the admin mailbox for the company. So if we go back to the company, click default, properties, what we can say is, if you go to save this now, say there's no admin mailbox. And that's fine, we can just do 0001, tab that, and it's found it already. We can save that. So feature groups, these are kind of like, how can I describe this? It's a bit like a class of service in Avaya or messaging. So on these feature groups, you have default users, and they just have certain things enabled. So this default user one, for example, it doesn't have web access enabled. This professional user one, if we have a look at this one, that doesn't have web access enabled either. I think mobility users is probably the one that has mail but web access enabled. Or maybe it doesn't. Basic users, maybe. I guess web access isn't enabled by default. But as you can see, I'm going through the feature groups now, professional users, you can see like certain things are enabled, certain things are disabled. So that's kind of like a class of service, really. It's giving users like features that they might need. Some of them are licensed, some of them come by default. But this default users one is the one I like to use. And what you can do is you can set up like caller languages, you can have the message format, ULAW, ALAW, primary and secondary languages. Obviously, it depends on what language packs you have installed. But that's kind of the real gist of what these feature groups do. So if I had users that required Spanish greetings or UK or US English, then what I could do is I could just, I could create a clone of this. So I could go into here and I could go, where is it? Sure, I could do a clone in there somewhere. It used to be a copy and paste function. All task properties. I'm sure it was in here. Maybe it was in the latest service pack. They changed it. Let's save that. So just as an idea, what we could do is we could do new feature group, and we could call this default users UK. And if we had the UK language pack, then we could, set English and English UK. We could also do default users Spanish. And again, we could set that in there. So I'm going to add these in because we will get some language packs added at some point. So if we go to, is there anything in my advanced options? Yeah, okay. So the other thing I'm going to make you aware is there is under the advanced tab, there is a setting for integration, remove the leading zero. So if you have extension numbers that begin with 0, so your communication managers are, I don't know, however much in length, and they start with 0, with this set to true, what it will do is it will not recognize your extension dial into the voicemail and it will ask you to enter your extension number and all that sort of stuff. So to get around that, we can set that to false. And what that will do is it will allow us to dial in. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing we can do on the company level as well is, I think it's under advanced, allow dialing extension starting with 0. So we'll want to enable that as well. And then just save that. If we go to password and security, what you can do is you can set a password for all of your mailboxes that are created. So any mailboxes that are created through here or through the web, then they'll have this password by default. You can ask the user to change the password on the first access. You can also increase the amount of times that they need to change their password. So you could say every 30 days they need to change their password. Password is auto unlocked after, I don't know, say 60 minutes. The user puts their password in wrong too many times, after an hour it'll unlock itself. You can play around with these sorts of things. Number of password periods where password cannot be reused. You can set that maximum number of password changes per day. You could say, well, they could change their password 5 times a day, and then the number of attempts before the mailbox will be locked. So this is a time like when they would put the password in incorrectly, it may unlock, it may lock the password, sorry, the mailbox. You can also enable this. This is a good admin tool. So if someone locks their mailbox or they forgets their password and they've locked their mailbox, instead of having to enter the password and unlock the mailbox, what administrator can do is they can just unlock the mailbox just by resetting the password. So we can save those and we can now exit that. There is also a web interface. So if I go 10.2.3.100, 130, sorry, HTTPS, what we'll do is be presented with the web page, not 10.2.3, 10.2.1. Let's just check my entity link to see it's up. And yes, all my SIP links are up now. And any moment now, this should load up, hopefully. Sometimes it can be a little bit slow. So there we go. Let's accept the certificate. I would have expected that to have done something by now. The messaging system's probably still loading up, to be honest. There we go. So users can use this to get web access, can also use the web admin as well to manage the voicemail system. A bit like I had just used that UC app. They just log in with the same username and password, and you'll see here's my default company. manage my departments, which I don't have any. You can manage users. The only thing I have in here now, I think, is my admin mailbox. In fact, I don't have any users at all. But if I was to go to manage departments, I'm pretty sure I added some in. Maybe I didn't. So yeah, you can add all your users and stuff like that in here. Manage your feature groups, so you can see these are the ones I've added in here. Manage your storage. You can do a lot of things through here. Then you can, like the same things you can do through the web admin, you can do on the UC app on the server as well. You can add administrators through here. And there is some system settings as well, which doesn't really seem to be doing an awful lot. But anyway, that's just a quick sort of tour around this. So if we fire up one excommunicator now, what we should get is
Thanks for
voicemail.
calling our unified communication system. Please dial the extension of the person you want to speak.
So there we go. Hit the voicemail.
Thanks for calling our unified.
It goes straight in. And even from my, where is my Avaya workplace? Let's open that up. So here's my Avaya workplace. We should be able to dial in through here as well. 8999. This thing has been a bit slow. Let me sign out and sign back in. I'll tell you why. I made some changes to it earlier on, and I need to synchronize. Communication manager. We'll go on here. Let's just unselect that and we'll do an incremental sync. There we go. What we should see in here is it should be synchronizing session manager, hopefully. May have already done it. So 8999. A bit weird, isn't it? It's not letting me dial anything. What's the problem here? Oh yeah, I deleted all my certificates off of here yesterday, so that is why. Just a moment. Just enable the certificate. I have a load of Avaya certificates on my PC, and yesterday I decided to delete them all because I had so many, and I deleted the lab one as well. So that's now installed. What I should be able to do is sign out and sign back in. Yep, so they're synchronizing, which is fine. So if we sign in now, this should work as well. So 8999.
System. Please dial the extension of the person.
Which is good. And what we'll do is we'll dial 2005. And this should forward off to voicemail. There
Thanks
we
for
go.
calling our unified.
Now, because this user doesn't have a mailbox, it's not going to forward to voicemail yet. So what we'll do is we'll go back into here. Need to sign out of that because it's gone a bit weird. You can probably hear the ring back. What we'll do now is we'll log in. And we'll create the mailbox for user 2005. So we'll go in here, new mailbox 2005 user 2005 user, and what we'll do is we'll give it the UK language pack just enter 2005 in there as well. It should take the default password and everything. So now we need to do quickly on here is change private numbering, and we'll just need to make sure that we have those added. They're in there for trunk group 3, so that's cool. So what we should be able to do now is if we dial into voicemail,
Welcome to your new voice messaging
and
system.
here we go.
Over the next few minutes, we will help you initialize your mailbox. To keep your mailbox secure, you should enter a password. Your new password number can be up to 20 digits. To confirm, please. Your new password will be active for the next time you call. Callers will hear one of the user's greetings when they are leaving a message for you. Callers will hear one of the.
So that's good. We know that works. And also, if we dial from workplace as well, we try and dial that user with send all calls on. Just waiting for it to load up. For some reason, it goes a bit weird on my PC. Like it just outputs random ringback every now and then. So if we dial user 2, that will ring. And it should.
I'm sorry, extension number 2005 didn't answer.
So there we have it. So that's pretty much all set up. So what we can do now is we can apply a language pack. So if we go back to this, what we'll do is we'll install, I think we'll install the Spanish one first of all. So literally just click on it. Click on run. If you get that message pop up, it usually takes a bit of time to unpack itself. So we just need to be patient and wait for it. So we're going to click next to that. We'll accept it and click next. We'll accept that as well and click next and click next. And then what it will do is it will probably stop the services. So this is something that kind of needs to be done out of hours really during the maintenance window. These are the boring parts of the videos, having to wait for stuff to stop and stuff like that. And then what it'll do is it will go ahead and it'll install the language pack. So I'm going to stop the video again, and when it's finished, we'll have to restart the server. It'll install a few packages like the nuance stuff and the real speak packages, and then we'll restart the server. What we'll do is we'll go and activate that language within our company section, and then we'll add our user to the feature group. So yeah, we'll be back in a few moments. Okay guys, welcome back. So where are we at now? So the language pack is installed on the server. I literally just rebooted it and now it's back up. Let's have a look at our SIP entity links. Probably be reporting this down, but we might be alright. Nope, they're definitely down. So we just need to wait some time for those to come up. And what I did earlier on was just had no voicemail number program for this station because it's a SIP station. You can't do it from Communication Manager. It has to be done from here. So that's all done now. So if we take these over here, what you find is we should be able to not configured. Well, that's a bit rubbish, to be honest. I would say you might need to synchronize this little bad boy up under here. I think this is a bug because I have to untick that and select it again. So that's all done. That's synchronized, or it's synchronizing. Now it's complete. Cool. So let's just check to see if that links up yet. So I'm hoping, yeah, that's fine. So that's just telling me network is unavailable, I guess. Let's do a list trace tac. To be honest, I'm going to try and do this little test. List trace tac 8999C. It probably won't work, but that won't work. Well, we could do a list trace tac, and then we can try 2002/C. Oh, look at that. That's cool. Something happened. I don't know if it's my lab system, but this IX workplace on there is incredibly slow. Okay, cool. So I'm going to use 1X Communicator, I think.
Welcome to your new voice messaging system.
Right, fine. Okay, so now we're at the point where we can start playing around with our feature groups and our languages. So what we need to do to set a language, and this is just an example. I'm not going to explain how to do it with every language pack because it's more or less the same for the other language packs as well. So what we need to do is go into the company, and you can only do it from this UC admin application as well. Company languages, and what we can do is add, and there we go. We have our Espanol language, our operator. We don't need to worry about that. Set greeting 7, and we have Isabel and Isabel, Tom, Jennifer. I suppose that's all you have for the Spanish language, maybe. It's a bit poor, I suppose. Okay, so if we go over to the feature group now for the Spanish users, what we can do now is we can say, well, the default language is going to be Espanol, and then we'll set that, and then we'll save it. And then what should happen is, if I bring the 1X communicator back up, you notice when I dial into voicemail,
Welcome to your new voice message.
we have this American greeting. So what we'll be able to do now is if we go over to the user and stick it in the Spanish feature group, and I'm hoping the audio quality isn't going to be terrible on this because it may have installed as ULAW.
Bienvenido a su nuevo sistema de mensajes de voz.
There we go.
Durante los siguientes
So that is how you install language packs and assign them to users. It's actually really easy, isn't it? And we could install some more if we wanted to. but I think we'll leave the language stuff for there at the moment. What we'll look at is just applying the latest patch. It's really, really easy. It's just a fact of finding the software, which is this one here, pretty much running it. And in fact, what we can do from our IX workplace is, whilst it's installing, because it will stop services, we can call user2, and that should give me the Spanish greeting on the mailbox. For some reason, the audio on this thing is just not working. And it's incredibly slow to kill the call. But anyway, it's not a big deal. Let me just check the user preferences in this because it may be set to, okay, so that's that. Speakers high definition. No, that's all fine. I'm not going to worry about it too much. In fact, I'm going to close it. So getting back to the patching of the server, yep, literally just click next. And then we wait for a while. Close this. Let's see what I mean. We have to put in our administrator's password again just to patch it. And I don't know whether we're going to be asked for any of the IIS stuff. No, it doesn't look like it. So what will happen is the services will stop and then it will just patch the rest of the system. The other thing I forgot to show you as well is for the users. If we look at user 2005 as an example, on page 2, what you have here is MWI server used. It needs to be set to SIP adjunct. So you can either have QSIG MWI or FP MWI, but it actually needs to be set to SIP adjunct. And if you have H323 stations hanging off of Communication Manager, then what you need to do in System Manager is, the way I have this system set up at the moment is I've got Communication Manager with a bunch of users on it. I've got 2 session managers connected to Communication Manager with several trunks. I have a feature trunk for features, application sequence. I have another trunk for calls. So if I had a SIP trunk connected to the session border controller, I would use that trunk to connect to Session Manager. And then I would have a trunk from Session Manager to CM like I have already for calls up here. And then basically my incoming numbers would be in my incoming trunk table or my AAR digit conversion table. And that's how they'll make their way into the system. And I've also got a messaging trunk as well for the pilot number to go over. So to be able to get MWI to work on H323 extensions, because the Avaya messaging is hanging off what is connected to the session managers. So to enable MWI to work for H323 stations that are hanging off of a communication manager that aren't SIP, what we need to do is we need to add our dial patterns in here. So my dial pattern ranges for the H323 stations that I have are the 1000 range and the 2000 range. So what I've done is I've got a routing policy that basically says use the feature trunk, the trunk that goes over 5061, which is TLS, use the feature trunk, and these are pointing at the feature trunk. So what happens is when someone's left a message, an H323 station has left a message, the MWI is sent as a notify from the messaging server into Session Manager on either one of these two, and then the routing policy is looked at using the dial pattern and the routing policy, and the MWI is then sent on to the station hanging off a CM because it knows how to get there from this. If it was just a SIP extension, it would know how to get there because the extension would be registered and Session Manager would take it and be like, yep, this guy's registered here, I'll send the request on, and that is pretty much how it works. So that's how the MWI works for H323 stations. So that is one thing that we need to take into consideration is this zip adjunct. So if you're doing a messaging upgrade from an old Audix or something like that, then that there is required. So if we get back to our messaging system, yep, it's literally stopping services now. So what will happen is it will just install the patch and it will tell me I need to reboot the server. And once the server's rebooted, that's it. It's all patched and up and running. It may take 5-10 minutes for it to come back up once it's restarted, but that's what happened. So yeah, that is how you install Avaya Messaging. If you like this video, really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I am going to be putting a load more videos up about AES servers, CMS servers, G450 gateways, ESS servers, survivability, you name it, it's coming. Especially with the device services and Active Directory integration as well. That's going to be one to look out for. So, yeah, give us a thumbs up, please, and let us know what you thought in the comments. All right, guys, laters.